ladies, and welcome to Walk This Way with Natalie. We've got tons of stuff to cover, so let's not miss another second and let's get right into it. In order to walk on stage in a pageant or on the runway, you need something very important, and that is shoes. When you are picking high heel shoes for a runway, there's a couple things that you need to keep in mind. The first thing is heel height. So a lot of girls these days wear those really high shoes that you see on Miss USA and Miss Universe and that sort of thing, which is awesome. I have a pair similar as well, and it's really fun to wear really high heels. It's so important to be able to actually walk in the heels that you select. So whether they are the really high ones or really little itty bitty ones, it's so important to practice and wear your shoes a lot before you actually wear them on stage. Now, there are different shoes for different occasions. So we're speaking specifically to pageants right now. So when you are thinking about the categories, so opening number, you are usually asked to wear a specific kind of high heel shoe. So take a look in your delegate handbook to make sure that you have the shoes requested. Fun fashion is something that you get to sort of make your own rules with. That's why it's called fun fashion or personal fashion. So if you're wearing a pink outfit and you want to rock some pink shoes, go for it. When it comes to swimsuits and pageants, I always recommend wearing a shoe color similar to your skin tone. This elongates your leg and makes everything look sort of more put together on stage, especially from afar. So evening gown, of course you can match your shoe to your evening gown. The most important thing when it comes to picking a shoe for on stage is the fit, the height, and the comfort. So do they fit you properly? Are they too big? Are they too small? Is there something that's going to lead to number two, discomfort? So are your shoes comfortable enough to be able to wear all night long? Like, you are going to be standing for a very long time. So you need to make sure that you pick shoes that are comfortable and that fit you properly. Next thing is heel height. I'll tell you right now, it doesn't matter how beautiful your shoes are, you have to be able to walk in them. For example, if you're used to being 5'5" and you're wearing 5-inch heels and you're now 5'10", you're at a whole other altitude. That's something to get used to. So it's really important to practice in the shoes that you select, break them in before you go to the pageant so you are walking fiercely and totally confidently on stage. So now that you have your shoes, there's a couple things that you need to keep in mind. First thing is your stance. Okay, so it's so important to keep your shoulders back. And when I say back, I mean not completely arched where your shoulder blades are completely touching and it feels bizarre and it's unnatural. Roll your shoulders back and leave them back. I usually keep a visual of my shoulder blades trying to touch. Of course, that's physically impossible, so don't think that you need to go all the way back where your shoulder blades can almost touch, but just think about that. So you're rolling your shoulders back and you're imagining your shoulder blades coming together. Next, your head. Keeping your head up, make sure that the invisible crown that you are wearing does not slip off, because maybe it won't be an invisible crown someday, maybe it'll be the real one, and you need to be able to keep that on your head. So head nice and tall, shoulders nice and back and tall, and this is part of your stance. Now let's get to the fun stuff, walking. I'm going to show you two very different walks. The first is a step pivot kind of pageant walk with a big smile with the T stance. And then the second walk is a fashion walk. So a little bit more serious, walking down the runway with the model stance and the turn and the walk back. So we're going to get into the first stance, which is the T stance. So we're going to start with the T stance. So the T stance is as simple as it sounds. You're making a T, or very similar to a T, with your feet. So you're standing in a T stance. So you're going to pick whatever foot you feel more comfortable leaning on. So you'd be putting your weight on a specific leg. So I like to put it on the right leg. So you put your foot that you're going to be leaning on in the back, and that goes horizontal, okay? Next, you're going to put your front foot, exactly that, in front of your other foot, kind of along the toe area, a little bit closer to the middle of the foot where your toe and your foot meet. So as you can see, it's sort of a T. It's so important to keep in mind your knee placement. So you don't want your knee pointing outward like this, because that just makes you look really awkward, right? You want to bring it inward just to save. So your foot will be pretty much at 1 o'clock. So if this was 12 o'clock, straight on, you are moving it to 1 o'clock. And you are leaning on your back leg, which causes your front leg to pop up. And that, my friends, is the pageant stance or the T stance. So keep in mind your shoulders back, your head nice and tall, your hands can go relaxed on your hip here, the other side, down, behind, both, up to you. A little tip that I like to share with my girls, instead of putting it here, putting your hands here on the widest part of your hip area, you can put it on the smallest part of your waist. So that just brings everything into a nice shape and it looks great on stage.
All right, so now that we've learned the T stance, we are going to learn the step pivot.
So this comes from your T stance. So you are in your T stance and you need to go back. How do you do that? With a step pivot, of course. So rule number 1 is front foot first. So you are always moving your front foot first when you are doing a step pivot. Okay, so you take a step with your front foot. Okay, you take another step with your foot from the back. And at this point, you're on the balls of your feet. You are turning, front foot first, and away. So let's do that again in slow motion. One more time from the side. The last thing you want to do is take your eye contact off with the judges too fast. So you step forward, forward. You're turning. My head's still here. I'm still looking at the judges. And then you whip your head around.
Now that we have the T stance and the step pivot, we're going to put them together with a walk. So when you're walking, it's so important to remember your shoulders back, your head nice and tall, holding that invisible crown. You can smile, you can be serious depending on what kind of walk you're doing. So the first walk we'll do is a really fun and classic pageant walk, which is the T stance, the step pivot with the walk. Next thing I'm going to show you is how to walk the runway as if you were walking in a fashion show or a modeling competition. So this is a little bit more serious. So instead of doing a step pivot, you can do this.
So next you have your model stance. Your model stance is very simple. You stand shoulder width apart, hands on your hips, or as I would say, the smallest part of your waist, just above your hips, shoulders back, a little bit more serious of an expression. So once you are here in your model stance, you lean one way. The next, you move your feet sort of sideways again to step back on this one. Head's the last to turn.
So hopefully these 2 walks can cover sort of the basics when it comes to runway walking. Get your shoes, start practicing, shoulders back, head up, holding that invisible crown, okay? Eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. Smile, personality, confidence. Simple as that.